Insane replay value, the best praise for a massive game. But many times these games end up feeling dead and only some stay alive forever. Let's look into that. Welcome to OpenSplit. For more game design breakdowns, please subscribe and check out my own survival roguelike on Steam. Now let's start with Fallout 4. The first journey through the Commonwealth is often a memorable experience, at least it was for me, especially the fact that you could walk in and out of the city without a loading screen. The world is incredibly dense with detail. Every ruined building seems to hold a terminal entry and a story told through hidden pieces of lore. You feel like a detective piecing together the history of a shattered world. The atmosphere is potent, a mix of grim survival and post-apocalyptic curiosity. Now play it a few more times and that feeling can change. The dense world no longer feels like a living, breathing place waiting to be discovered. At least it faded away for me. It starts to feel more like a meticulously curated set piece. You know exactly which corner holds the terminal with a joke about pre-war insurance. And you remember exactly the location of the ghoul in a fridge side quest, where it begins and how it ends. The environmental storytelling, which was so engaging the first time around, becomes a familiar backdrop. It's like painted scenery you've seen before. What truly affects the replay experience is the nature of the story and role-playing, and we all know that Fallout 4 kind of messed up in that perspective. The central narrative drive to find your son and choose a faction is quite rigid. Because of this, many of the game's choices begin to feel like cosmetic variations on a set path. On a second and third playthrough, you aren't fundamentally deciding who your character is, unless you kind of ignore all the main quests. What happens is you're often just choosing a different aesthetic or combat style, while navigating towards the same major story beats. The dialogue options frequently just lead to the same outcomes. Fallout 4 presents a fascinating paradox. It gives the player an incredibly detailed toy box while simultaneously insisting that every story inside it is just pre-scripted and unchangeable. For me, this has led to a desire for the world to behave differently. You might want settlements to evolve beyond resource hubs, for raider gangs to dynamically migrate, or for the world to have some form of light procedural elements in its empty spaces. Without a layer of simulation or systemic tangents on top of its spectacular set dressing, a replay can feel like taking the same guided tour through a static exhibit, and I feel like that every time I start the game over, just going through the same story beats every time. The initial mood fades when you know exactly what's around the corner, and that's why I also heavily use mods to kind of transform this into more of a survival, post-apocalyptic, generic experience, you could say. Now let's think about this. If one approach creates a dense world that can feel like a stale routine on replay, which would be Fallout 4, what is the alternative? What does a world that seems empty at first glance offer on a second, third or 10th visit? Well, let me introduce you to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now I have a very interesting history with Legend of Zelda, because I am definitely of the opinion that Ocarina of Time is one of the greatest games ever made. But after, I think, Twilight Princess, I saw the formula. So when they released Breath of the Wild, or just kind of announced it, and also specifically talked about the fact that they used Skyrim as an inspiration, I was genuinely intrigued. And Hyrule, by traditional open world standards, can seem very sparse. They chose a different approach very deliberately. Let's look at this in more detail. There are vast fields, quiet mountains and stretches of landscapes with no immediate quest markers or point of interests. Your map begins blank. There isn't a long log of collectibles per region. And on paper this might seem like a poor recipe for replayability, but I'm just remembering how it felt like the first time when I played Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought the initial kind of hook of the game was very interesting, but as soon as the game let myself be free on this open world map, everything just fell apart. It just didn't feel right anymore, and I basically stopped playing. I don't think this was a good game at all. So I think Breath of the Wild kind of flipped everything on its head, breaking away from the usual formula, and that's exactly where its design shines. The primary goal is to support a specific mood and feeling. That mood is created through consistent interactive systems and a sense of serene freedom. I think you can really see the inspiration here, because the creator specifically stated that he always wanted to recapture his feeling of trialing the countryside of Japan when he was a kid, and he tried that in the very first Zelda game already, but the graphical capabilities weren't there yet. So now with Breath of the Wild, I think he truly realized his vision. Now on a first playthrough, you explore out of curiosity. I wonder what's over that hill. On subsequent playthroughs, you explore out of a sense of familiarity and relaxation. I want to go over that hill again. This all changes the world from a series of tasks into a place you simply want to exist in. And I think Ocarina of Time, the very first 3D Zelda game, also did a very good job at that. With this new formula, the lack of content, you could say, the space that is given to you is for discovery. The storytelling method enforces this as well. Unlike games that provide constant dialogue and lore entries, Breath of the Wild is often quiet. Its main narrative is fragmented into optional memory cutscenes, which are, in my opinion, really the highlight of the game, because they are sparse and optional. Triggering one doesn't feel like a narrative checkpoint. To me, these cutscenes feel like sudden emotional moments of clarity amidst a peaceful journey. It feels authentic to the world's theme of ruin, memory, and quiet recovery. You don't replay Breath of the Wild primarily to just see the story again or something you missed. You replay it because you miss the feeling of being in that world. The world functions as a complete and consistent mood piece. What makes this world feel alive is not the density of the content, but it is its reliable atmosphere, the chemistry between the gameplay and the story. If you let it, you can form a very strong emotional bond with the world itself, which I kind of struggle to do with something like Fallout 4. Now let's map out this a little bit. An open world design often forces us to choose between two different ideas, a density of content or a depth of experience. And we often confuse the two. We think density is depth of experience, but it's not. The reality is that a game designed around a puzzle will of course eventually be fully understood, while a game designed as a compelling place to just exist in invites return visits indefinitely. At the end of the day, that is the highest praise you can give an open world or a massive game anyway. It is simply a space you enjoy returning to. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your favorite world to revisit in the comments below. And if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. Also check out my own survival roguelike on Steam, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.